everybody. Welcome back to Crafting in Crime Daily. This is the show where I, your host, Rebecca, recap live trials. So you have something to listen to while you're crafting. I am working on this diamond painting. Also, last night I was working on my sister's blanket. I don't know what's with the lighting today. We did have a storm, came overnight, a little bit cooler out today. So let me show you. I'm not going to turn the whole canvas around, but you can see, like, I'm working on the bottom of this painting. How gorgeous is this? And then I'm just working on the pumpkin here. This is not filled in. This is just the picture. So this is all done now. It's so pretty. Oh my gosh. Okay. So I'm using my Enablers Outpost pins, a pin that I got from a subscriber, friend mail. Thank you. And using my little Crafts with Crashley. It's a cover minder. I don't know if you can see it. It's a little kitty cat. And there's a little diamond that's like a fishbowl. Super cute. I don't know if she has any more of those, but Crafts with Crashley is down in the description. Also, on the diamond painting that I'm working on, you can see Crafts with Crashley release papers with my watercolor artwork, which I will be doing tonight in Craft with Me Wednesday, my live that I do on Wednesday nights, 7 p.m. Eastern. I'm sorry, 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central Time tonight. And I'm going to have the watercolors out tonight. I don't like this lighting at all. Well, I adjusted it a little. I don't know if that makes a difference, but let's get on with it. What happened in the trials? Well, verdict watch. No verdict. This is day 15 of that case. The jury has been deliberating 9 hours and 34 minutes precisely. And that does not include the deliberation that they did last week. That doesn't count because they had to start over once they put 2 new jurors on the jury. So my guess is this is going to end up like the first 2 trials. Cara Rentala is on trial for the murder of her wife, Anna Marie Rentala. This is the 4th trial. The first 2 ended in hung juries, so mistrials. 3rd one, there was a verdict of guilty, overturned. She's been out on bond since that verdict was overturned and living with her parents, I think, but in the home where Brianna is being raised. So she's living with her daughter. Interesting, huh? Okay, so what happened in the Kowalski case? If we get a verdict, if I'm awake, because I have to nap every day at 2 o'clock. I'm old. It's a thing. And, oh my gosh, I just have to tell you guys, look, I got these leggings in the mail. Look at these. Leggings. I'm weird. Pop Fit. Popfit. Oh my God. They fit so comfortably. And they're large enough for my big body, my big shoulders. But it makes me look very svelte. Pop Fit, Popfit. Not a sponsor. I'm just saying, what I did was they sent me a free pair if I paid the shipping. I thought, let me try them first because I'm very hesitant about leggings. They'll send you something that's like this and you got to like stretch it to get it on. Oh my God. These are fantastic. I just saw something go by outside. Okay. Anyway, really squirreling today. Okay. So we're going to talk about Maya Kowalski now. She and her father and brother, Jack, her father, her brother Kyle, they are suing Johns Hopkins Children's Hospital for false imprisonment, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and fraud for the billing. They talked about that yesterday. So Jack Kowalski, still on the stand. He started on the stand on Monday, still on the stand yesterday, all day, all day. Oh my gosh. I don't even know if they finished because after a while you just get tired of listening to it. It just because there's so much sidebar and this And you know I'm not enamored with this lawyer, this plaintiff lawyer, and he, the defense keeps objecting every time. He'll ask a question, they object. He'll ask a question, they object. I'm like, oh my god, stop. Predicate, hearsay. I'm like, and that will throw off plaintiff attorney, and he'll like, and then the witness will forget the question, and they'll have to re-ask the question, and yeah. So what we learned that was that Maya was discharged 5 days after her mom committed suicide. Her mom hung herself in the garage because she didn't see any other way that she was going to be able to get her daughter back to the family. This was the only way, she thought. So sad. Anyway, Jack said he didn't have anybody to go with him to pick her up. He went by himself to pick her up, and she could not hold herself up. Like her trunk was that weak. He said this was the worst he'd ever seen her. He had to put her in the back seat. She had a wheelchair. He had to take her out of the wheelchair, put her in the back seat, and then prop her up with pillows because she had no trunk control. She couldn't keep her body up. And you know, he said that during those last few weeks of her hospitalization, he and Beata, before she committed suicide, were afraid that she was not going to survive if she stayed in that hospital much longer, that she was going to die in that hospital. So one of the things that the jury, because the jury is allowed to ask questions, and one of the things that the jury has got in their head and they've been asking about is, does her pain increase when Beata's in the room? Very good question. And he's like, oh, no, it doesn't. So when he said, he just flat, he was like indignant. No, he was indignant. So, of course, the defense had him on tape and they played it for the jury to hear saying just the opposite. Agreeing, I don't know who he was saying this to, but he was telling someone that, a lot of times she'll, they'll be doing something with Maya, and Beata will walk in the room, and all of a sudden Maya's in excruciating pain. Uh-oh. You just lied to the jury. And he says, well, she would do it to me, with me too. And I'm thinking, so what? Um, does that prove that she had Munchausen's by proxy? I think it proves that Maya knew that mom understood her pain. And maybe she was, bucking it up whatever they were doing before mom came in the room. And then mom comes in the room and she feels free to express this pain that she's having to her mom. I don't know. That's just, I don't know. So apparently, and I did not know this, that the entire time Maya went to Mexico for those ketamine treatments where she was medically induced into a ketamine coma, Beata was blogging that whole trip, blogging. And so Jack was asked about this, and he says that was our way of communicating to all our family and friends about what was going on. Rather than making all these phone calls and having to repeat yourself, we were just blogging it. Like, oh my God, seriously? Okay. um, yeah. So he was shown on cross-examination by the defense attorney. He was confronted with other medical records that where other healthcare providers had questioned her diagnosis, including the hospital in Chicago that they took her to, Lori's. After the initial diagnosis, they took her up to Lori's, and someone in that medical record suspected conversion disorder. And then he mentioned another Dr. Evans, and I don't know who Dr. Evans is, who wrote that he was considering Munchausen's by proxy. So Jack denied knowing any of this. No, I didn't know any of that. And then apparently sometime during her hospitalization, the 87 days, mom was asking for propofol, and he didn't know anything about that. Now, propofol, that's that milky substance that they give you during anesthesia that just puts you out, you're out. Michael Jackson died from propofol. Um, she was asking for that, and apparently they were giving her propofol, but Beata wanted her to have a higher dose of it, and I'm thinking, this is the first time I've heard propofol. I thought it was ketamine, so I don't know. I mean, then clearly the medical records said propofol. So much different than ketamine. Ketamine's for pain. Propofol just it's an anesthetic. Anyway, so he asked why did they refuse to have her transferred to another facility, and he said because you were going to transfer her with a Munchausen's by proxy diagnosis, and I think that it was to Nemours that they had planned to get her transferred for physical therapy and behavioral therapy. Mom refused the transfer because she did not want her to be transferred with Munchausen's by proxy. Because once that diagnosis gets into a medical record, it's going to go from place to place to place, and then it's going to always be there. And Beata's a nurse. She knows this. So she's like, no, you are not transferring my daughter with that diagnosis. And they wouldn't change the diagnosis. So interesting. And then they brought out that at the time Beata committed suicide, Beata and Jack were planning a legal separation so that she could come home with dad. They were literally going to lawyers, and he kept being asked, you were filing for divorce, weren't you? No, I wasn't filing for divorce. We were going to get a legal separation so she could move out, live somewhere else, Beata could, and then I could bring Maya home with me. That's the extent that they were going to go to get their daughter back. And I will tell you, at no time have I ever heard Jack say anything negative about Beata. The only vibe I'm getting from Jack is that he was totally in love with this woman, and that they were, they did share disagreements over the care and treatment of Beata, but only because Jack wanted to capitulate to the providers at that hospital. Because number one, he didn't want to get arrested. He said that there was a family meeting that was held with them and the doctors, in which he was told in no uncertain terms, if you take her out of here, you will be subject to arrest. And that was the belief that he was under all the time. And he kept trying to get Beata not to make any waves, just go with it, you know. So on redirect, the plaintiff attorney brought out that the hospital records were trying to paint a picture of Beata and Jack doing something wrong. They were much more narrative than you would normally see a medical record. Lots of narrative in this medical record that probably shouldn't be there. I've never seen that much narrative in a medical record. And then he said that he went in one day to visit Maya, and Maya met, he found her in the playroom or wherever, and she wanted to go down to the cafeteria to get a piece of cake, or he couldn't remember what it was she wanted. So he took her down. He was going to go down to the cafeteria, and he was met down there by the social worker who had a detective with her. And he felt like a little bit like he was ambushed. And the detective said, all right, go ahead and, have your snack with your daughter, and then I want to talk to you. So after he sat down with Maya and had their little snack, she goes back to her room. He sits down with this detective, and the detective was trying to get him to turn on his wife. And he, of course, he wouldn't do that. Oh my God. So that's over with. They have other witnesses on the stand today. Yes. Now let's go to the boy in the box. I don't know if I told you, though, this is another Florida case. So the Kowalski case is being tried in Pinellas County, which is on the west coast of Florida near Tampa. The Boy in the Box case is in Palm Beach County on the east coast of Florida. Uh, this took place in Jupiter. The home where the box was in the garage was in Jupiter. So the first person on the stand, I covered the opening statements yesterday. Today I'm going to talk about the witnesses from yesterday. So the first person on the stand was the first responding officer to a missing persons phone call made by Tracy. What's the last name? Ferreter. Tracy's on trial too. She's out on bail and she is in the courtroom listening. Now they did invoke the rule, which means when an attorney invokes the rule, that means that the sequestration rule, which means if you're going to be a witness in the proceedings, you cannot sit in the courtroom and listen to other people's testimony, nor can you go on Zoom and listen to it, nor can you go on YouTube and listen to it. You can't have any hearing of the testimony before you give your testimony. So if you're on the witness list, you are not allowed to sit in that courtroom and listen. So I suspect she's not on the witness list because she's a co-defendant. She's going to be tried separately. Her trial is next, but she's there. Interesting. And I don't have any what's the word I want to use? I'm not getting any sort of feeling one way or another about whether they're together, the parents. Like a united front. I don't. I'm not seeing, like, she's not sitting behind him. She's sitting somewhere else in the courtroom. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know. But if I get that, I'll try to convey that to you. So the first one was the responding officer. He's been a patrol officer for 8.5 years. On January 28th of 2022, he was called out to the home in Eagles Landing in Jupiter, Florida. And it was put out as a missing juvenile. So he knocked on the door. Tracy answered. He made contact with her. And their entire conversation was outside of the house. This was not in, she did not invite him inside the house. She let him know about her son missing. And so he took all the information and said he would check back. So the next day, June 29th, so that was it for him. He was on and off the stand. Boop, he's gone. So the next person on the stand was a female police officer who had been a patrol officer for 19.5 years and is currently working for attorneys as a bookkeeper. So interesting career choice. Um, and, as you get older, you just want to do something different. I understand that. I get it. So she was asked at the time, she was a row patrol. She was asked at the time by her sergeant if she would go on the 29th and make contact with someone at that home and check and see if the missing juvenile had returned home. So basically, go follow up with these parents. So she did finally get a hold of Tracy, and she was advised that he had not yet returned home, and she did not feel like Tracy was overly concerned. She said, he's done this before. So that was her involvement. Then on January 30th, the following day, this was a Saturday, she went to check in again. She knocked on the door. There was no answer. She walked around the home. She finally, she said, they don't, at that point in time, they did not have their own cell phones. So she would have to use her personal cell phone. And she didn't really want to do that. She wanted the phone call to be recorded. So she actually called dispatch and had dispatch patch her through to Tracy Ferreter. And Tracy apparently was at some band event with one of the kids, and she conveyed to this officer that dad was at a sporting event for one of the other children, and that they were busy and didn't have time to come meet with them at that point. But no, he had not come home yet. Then the next person on the stand was a detective who was assigned to the case. Now, this is the evening of January 30th, after the female patrol officer had that conversation. So they actually assigned the case to this detective, and he was told to go out that evening and contact Tracy Ferreter and find out what's going on with this juvenile. So he goes out that evening. He said maybe 6 or 7 o'clock, and he had called Tracy Ferreter ahead of time to make sure she was there, and she was. He said he was there a total of almost an hour, and all of this is on his body worn camera. He said first 45 minutes we were all outside. He says I was trying to convince her to let me in. He says I kept telling her, listen, I don't know what's going on in there. I don't know if you've got whatever. I don't really care. My only interest here is to help find your son. I just want to come in and see if there's any clues to where he might have gone. And, whatever it is you don't want me to see, don't worry about that. My concern is your son. So she eventually falls for that and lets him in, but only for very few minutes. So he said as soon as he walked in, there was like a huge credenza there, and there was really nothing on this credenza. And then right to the right was a bedroom that Tracy, had conveyed to this officer was the bedroom of the missing juvenile and her infant son, her toddler son. And he said everything in that bedroom looked like it was for the younger son. It was a crib and toys, and there was some sheets and a pillow thrown into a corner. And so eventually he did uh, view the box that was in the garage. He saw the box. He saw that it had a lock on the outside, and he saw an electrical switch on the outside that controlled the lighting. So he did walk very briefly. He said he spent less than a minute in the box. He went into the box, looked around. There was a desk. There was This is a test of the National Wireless Emergency Alert System. The purpose is to maintain and improve alert and warning capabilities at the federal, state, local, tribal, and territorial levels, and to evaluate the nation's public alert and warning capabilities. No action is required by the public. Did you get one of these on your phone? What is this all about? That's scary. Russia's coming. Okay, I digress. Back to so he went inside this box. He saw the deadbolt. He saw the light switch that was on the exterior. When he went in, there was a box spring mattress. There was sheets on the bed, a small desk with some children's books, and then he saw the Ring camera. And he also found a bucket. He didn't see it initially when he went in the room because he wasn't in the room very long. He went into the room, left the room, and then he said something was nagging at him. And so he asked, "Can I go back in there for a minute?" She's like, "Yeah, go in." So he goes back in, and that's when he sees the bucket. And that's actually when he sees the Ring camera. So he explained that he got a search warrant for the Ring camera at ring.com. Apparently, it's a cloud based storage system. So they store all the videos that are done on this Ring camera. So he got several thousand, 21,000 videos from not just this Ring camera. Apparently, they had Ring camera on the front door and a Ring camera that showed part of the backyard. So 3 Ring cameras. Uh, he said he had reviewed all the ones that were related to what was in the box. Now, so at this point, I'm thinking, oh, we're going to see some good stuff here. We're going to see some pictures, some videos. No, they're not showing any of that. he had a crime scene investigator come in because they also got a search warrant for the house. So they go in, they search the property. He reviews all the camera footage. They take pictures of everything, and they put all those pictures into evidence of the residence, the box, the videos. We don't get to see any of it. The jury did, but we didn't get to see any of it. And they didn't play thousands of videos. They played a couple of videos of the box. We haven't seen. The jury was not shown any videos of the defendant, which is the father, um, Timothy Ferreter, disciplining his son, which we'll get to later on. So then they put on the older sister. So the boy that was kept in the box, they call him Ty. Ty's older sister, and I don't know her name. They weren't advertising what her name was. They have her because she's 17. She's not an adult. They have her in a different courtroom. So the prosecutor had to leave, go to the other courtroom, and then they have her on video. They have it set up so that the jury can visually see what's going on in this other courtroom. And then they had the sound set up so you could hear the questions and the juvenile's responses, but we never get to see her face, nor do we get to hear any of the names of the juveniles, which I understand that. So what she was saying is that she was adopted from China. She's older. She doesn't remember when she was adopted. Probably, she said, very, very young, between infant and toddler, somewhere in that range. She said dad was the rule maker in the house, the disciplinarian. They were living in Florida, then they moved to Arizona where they lived for 5 years. She was talking about how Ty would live in this box. He was there most of the time. If he was allowed out, he would be outside doing yard work. She and the other children never had to do any yard work, and they weren't made to stay outside. When he was done, he wouldn't be allowed to come in for a drink or a snack or anything like that unless someone came with him. He was never allowed to be alone in the house or there when nobody was, if nobody was there, he'd be locked in that room. That this didn't apply to any other children. She didn't have a lock on her door. None of the other children had locks on their door. When they had meals, they didn't have meals with him. He had meals in his room. Um, if they were watching TV in the living room, he was not allowed to watch TV with them. He wasn't allowed to play games with them. He had to do everything like that in his room. Yeah. And she felt like Ty was punished more severely than the rest of them. She didn't think it was proportionate to what he had done either, sort of out of proportion. And he would be disciplined a lot for not answering questions, like dad would say, "What'd blah, blah, blah," accuse him of something, and he just wouldn't respond. He wouldn't talk to him. So the dad would grab him by the neck. She said that's what he would do most of the time, grab him by the neck and drag him into the box. She never visually saw what he was doing to him, but she could hear him, sound of slapping and hitting, and dad yelling and cursing at her brother. And she could hear her brother screaming. So sad. Then she was asked about Arizona. At this point, the judge gave the jury an instruction that this testimony regarding Arizona is just coming in to show motive, um, method, that they had this common plan or scheme. So the girl testified that when they first moved to Arizona, he had his own room. It was probably a larger house, 4 bedrooms. Dad had a room. Anyway, he had his own room, but he was locked in that room. There was a deadbolt on the outside of that room, and he had no access to a bathroom. And then when the baby came along, mom had a baby. They built this box in the garage in Arizona, very similar to the one that he had in Palm Beach. They put Ty into the box, and then that room that he had became the baby's room. She said the room in Arizona had a desk, a bucket, a bed, and it was locked from the outside. And she said that went on in Arizona for a couple of years. He was locked in there. And then they moved to Florida. So that's where it ended for the day when they were ready to cross examine her. So at this point, the judge let the jury take a break to determine how long the cross examination would be and whether it should be started or continued on the next day. So it was decided they would continue it and do the cross examination the next day. A little disappointed that we're not seeing any pictures or photos of, I mean, we've all seen photos of the box, but um, more to come on all this, but clearly we're not being shown a lot of the evidence, which that's disappointing for as a podcaster. I want to see that. I want to see the evidence, not the autopsy. Well, there's nobody died in this case, but you know how I feel about autopsy photos. Anyway, all right. Is that everything? I think so. That's a lot. Yes. So we're still verdict watch at this point. Uh, Last count 9 hours 34 minutes. I don't think that's been updated any time soon. Oh my gosh, it's taken a long time. All right, guys, have a great Wednesday. Hopefully, I'll see you tonight in Craft with Me Wednesday. I'll be watercolor painting, and if not, I'll see you tomorrow on Crafting Crime Daily. Have a great Wednesday, everybody. Hump day. Mike. Bye.